Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Can anybody see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is the form. We've broken it down into 3 sections. The first is the general information, detail events and audience information, and then any additional information that they may have. I've made the event title, the date, start time, end time, location, type of event, frequency, and the purpose objective required. And then I left the others as optional fields. So does anybody have any comments on how this is set up so far?
I have a question.
Sure.
Let's say there's a 2-day event. How do you populate this?
If it's a 2-day event, then they would select the day and time that it starts, and then if it's and then they can select the second date here. Let's say if it's on the 11th and it ends on the 13th,
Okay,
they can put that here.
perfect.
I did put the time there. I didn't know if that was recommended or if you just want the dates. Um, but yeah, so they can just select the start time and the end time here. And then
Yes.
obviously,
Mm-hmm.
if they want it annual or biannual, if they meeting conference or type of event is a workshop, matchmaking, stuff like that, they can choose which one that they need to select. And then obviously they can put in the event title, location. If there's a website, they can just put in the website and then purpose of objective. And then if they needed to have the confirmation requested by, they can select a date. So let's say, oops, actually, I'm probably logged in still. Um, nah, that's all right. So, one
I
second.
I do have a couple of other comments on this one, sorry.
That's okay. That's why we're here.
The location, could we have a radio button that says virtual and then we don't need the other address stuff?
Yes, we can do that. We can hide this, and then what we could do is if they select, I think there is maybe webinar, it'll show these fields here. So if, and then we can just hide, we can keep the location, or yeah, we can keep the location and maybe put virtual or something, or
Mhm.
or Zoom or whatever they want to put in for the location, and then when they select webinar, then it'll hide these fields. Otherwise, if it's anything else, then they can these fields will show up.
Well, it could be a virtual matchmaking or virtual workshop. They won't necessarily know
Oh, okay. So
to
yeah, then
select
yeah,
that.
we can put a radio button that says, is this virtual or something
Mhm.
like that. And then if they say yes, then these fields will
Okay.
populate, and then they can put in the address, city, state, and stuff.
Okay. And then type of event, quite often they ask us to be a presenter and a matchmaking table. So is there a way to do multiple, or is it like primary purpose of event or something like that?
We could do, yeah, we can add a field for primary purpose of the event, and then if they wanted to do like a multi-select, um, we can add another field that says, any additional types of events they can and then they can select, uh, you know, any of the others here. So, like for example, if I can change instead of type of event, I could do primary type of event, and then they can select here, and then another field that says secondary type of events, or yeah, and then they can multi-select these if that's what you want them to do.
Let me check, Michelle, would it
Mhm.
be, would that be the better option, or would it be
I
useful to say like type of participation and not have a primary? It just check boxes.
I think for type of event, you could keep it like this. And then for event rule is usually when they do the multiple things where they're like, okay, we want a matchmaker and a presenter. So when we get to the role section, that would be hashed out there.
Okay.
For the most part, like, if it's a conference, they'll just list it as conference under type of event. And
Okay,
that
that's fine.
conference will have all those multiple activities.
Okay. Okay. I withdraw the question.
Okay.
No problem. No, I just worry that, if we give them too many options, they'll just get confused what if they're just having just one event, one type of event, which is like a conference,
Okay.
which is what we get most of the time.
Hey, can I ask some questions here?
Sure, of course.
So, and I already hit my one about the event type being multiple, but so I'm looking at this. So I'm working right now, Miss Ridley is headed to a SAMI conference, right? If I'm gonna submit this request for it, and I'm looking at this as a presenter, it's virtual and in person, right? So I think that needs, like, I'm looking at it as we're asking it the type of event this is. We're not asking at this point our participation request. Is there a point where we're going to say, what do you want from Azabu? Because this just says general information. General information, that type of event is going to be multiple, right? So in this case for the SAMI, it's going to be a workshop. It's going to have roundtables. It's going to be matchmaking. It's going to have a lot of options, right? And I think that's something that we typically kind of want to know is what kind of event are we looking at? So my question is, before I start picking this apart, is there a spot for the request out of Azabu, right? So I'm looking at it as this is the general information, so we should be able to identify if there's going to be in person, if it's going to be virtual or both, what type of event it is. We typically want to know who the target market is, audience. And then another section saying, what do you need from us, right? And that's to me where you start focusing on, are you asking us to hold a booth and to present, right? I
Yeah,
threw a
so
lot at you. So is there more?
yeah, so the next page, detail event and audience information, it contains like the POC information, audience information, such as characteristics of the audience and what the industry is focusing on and stuff like that. There's also,
Is there a
event
tab to say what
participation.
do they want from us?
Yes, the detail, event, and audience information tab here will start asking those questions. So let me
Right. This
go
is modeled
next.
after the event request form that we send out
Correct.
to the.
Yes.
Right. I
So
just thought that we were some of the questions we were looking at on the first tab kind of affect this one, right? And so if we're looking for in the first tab now that I know that this is here,
we could move
if we're
this.
asking for detailed information about the general information, I think Anna said it best, is like we probably do need to have multiple informations about whether or not all the types of events they're going to have, but maybe a checkbox instead of a single or multiple select option. However you break that now, but I think that if we're going to ask what kind of event it is, we shouldn't put barriers for them to provide the information we're asking, right? Because it could be like, again, I'm talking about the SAMI conference. I'm looking at the website right now. They have webinars and they have matchmaking and roundtables and all this stuff. And if we're asking to put one, right, we're kind of missing the mark of what we're asking for. Does that make sense?
Traditionally for the event form, usually they would just list that as conference.
Yeah, but now we would get
we're
more
not
out of them
really.
because this is dynamic, right? So we could use that as like initial where we want to, but if we're going to ask them, now if I'm if I'm just being crazy, please tell me. But if we're asking them to tell us about the event they're having, right? Then let them provide the information. If we're not going to get anything out of it, then we don't care what type of event this is other than the word conference. We don't need to have that there. We need to have it to the point of what participation do they want from us?
Right, and that would be in the role section where they list, okay, we need a matchmaker, we need an exhibitor and a speaker.
Okay, so then for type of event, do we need this here other than the word that it's a conference? That's a small business conference.
So I traditionally, because the reason that's in the event form to begin with is we used to do cabinet reports, where we would have to describe the event and provide the information. So for the most part, what we were interested in was whether or not it was a conference, a meeting, or just like a summit, something like that. We usually get the actual event details and find out what's in the event when they ask us what role they want us to play, and then when they provide us with the agenda. But I think the reason we wanted to move this form into this format was to simplify it a little bit more. And I don't know if that would make things more, add more steps to the process versus making it a little bit more simplified.
So about a year and a half ago, I pushed to turn this onto the site and started talking to Robert Fuller about it. And the idea at that time was more dynamic, right? So we would have the general information based off of the Word document you guys had of what kind of event it was. And then once you get down to what are you asking us to do, right? The Word document that you guys had was pretty lengthy because if you wanted us to do a presenter, it had specific questions. If you wanted us to do a workshop, if you wanted something, it had a lot of questions to it. And so the idea would be that based on the selection that it did, then it'd be more dynamic. It would only ask the questions that we needed to answer those specific fields. I don't know how you guys cracked the egg. It looks amazing so far, but I'm not trying to belabor it. But I'm just saying is, if we're going to ask what type of event, we just.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as that goes, there is a proposed OSDBU participation section where if they select any of these, like panel member matchmaking, then they would fill out the information here. Otherwise, if there's no,
Oh, I like that.
yeah, so if they select
So it is
other,
dynamic. You click it and it shows.
yeah, exactly, and then yeah, exactly, and if they
And you can do
decided to do
multiple
all
ones.
of them, if they want to do all of them, it'll show all of them, and then they fill out the information here. So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Otherwise, if it's just one, then they would just fill out this one section and then move on to, the rest of the page. So as far as that's concerned, yeah, that part we built into this form so that it'll be easier for the user to fill out the information.
I personally love that.
Looks good.
Okay. Let me go back up a little bit. I went ahead from general information. Do you guys had any other comments about it?
Wait, can you start at the beginning? Sorry.
That's
The
okay.
beginning of that page, not, yeah, we don't have to
Oh,
go
okay.
through this
Yep.
again. It's not.
No worries. Go ahead.
Um,
And if we need to move these things around, if you feel we need to move these around, we could do that as well. If we want to put event host and POC information under general information, we could do that. And if any of these sections, I mean, if you feel that these need to be moved around, like I said, we could do that.
okay, so I think I'd recommend changing these titles a little bit. So a detailed event and audience information. I don't think we need that. We could just say event host and then audience.
Okay.
And
And
then
would you recommend saying something also where they identify this is OSDBU participation request section? Because if I'm looking at detailed event and audience information, it doesn't say where I'm asking OSDBU for support.
Yeah,
Right.
not from the tab.
Well,
you would have
why
to
don't we
dig deeper into the form to find the OSDBU participation,
Why don't we move
which we
that
can
up?
move into we can move this up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We can move this either up to the top, or if you want to create a separate tab with OSDBU participation so that they know that they're going to fill that information in, then
I like that idea personally.
Yeah, I
That's
like the
okay.
idea of a
Yeah.
different tab.
okay, yeah, I
would
can
say,
move that.
yeah, second tab would be OSDBU.
Yep, I can do that. Okay. And then yeah, event host, POC information.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna fill this stuff out real quick.
So host, can we just say, or would you mind changing that a little bit to host organization? Because just to make it clear that it's not a human, it's the company. You see where it
Yes.
says host? Yeah.
Yep, I can do that. Yeah, and additional POCs, estimated number of attendees. here, I'm just going to put in 40. They can select the characteristics of the event. You know, they can multi-select if they need to. If they select other, they could type in other characteristics here. The industry focus, stuff like that, you know, the goods and services they provide, estimated number of VOSB attendees, and they I put as required because I saw that that was required on the form. I didn't know if and these are left as optional, so I didn't know if that's how you guys wanted it to be. Michelle, do you know if
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah, we like to at least know the number of VSBs in attendance if they can provide it. And if they can't, I'm sure they, just them writing to be decided or or
Right.
whatever comment they want to make is fine. But there's also the general attendees number, right? Before this.
There is the estimated
right at the
number of
top, right.
attendees.
Could we
Okay.
put all the numbers together? So estimated number, characteristics of the audience, and then after that would be the estimated number of small bit, like
Yep.
the 4
Yeah,
boxes.
we could do that. Yeah, we could you want me, so you're saying to move this up into next to estimated number of attendees?
I would say under the characteristics of the audience, because we're asking about the
Got it.
socioeconomics, then details of socioeconomics would make sense.
Got it.
And even if, I don't know if this is too difficult, but if they select VOSBs, then estimated number of VOSB box shows up. If they don't
I see.
select women-owned, right?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we can hide these boxes here,
Oh,
and
that's
then based
beautiful.
on what they select, these will pop up. Yeah, we can do that.
I also see, just I'm being nitpicky, but some like typo or grammar things. Is there a way for me to just like mock this up later? Like, for example, what goods and services instead of good and services? I don't want to waste our time on it. I just want to be able to give those edits later.
Yeah, you could just send me a copy. I mean, this was all based on the outreach form, so if you want to, I mean, maybe maybe it was probably me that I spelled it wrong. I could look
Your
over
focus
it.
is on the form, which is pretty, and that's what I appreciate. So this is minor nitpicks.
Yeah, if you have access to VEMS, you should be able I can give you access to, because these are all these are all fields on a form
Yeah.
that's in VEMS. So if you wanted to look at the form itself in VEMS, you can review it through VEMS.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Mike,
Or
just for your awareness, Anna is the Altibu communicator. Like, so what she says is kind of how we move forward. So if she,
okay,
even if it was on the form before and she says, hey, we want to change this to look like this, that's her complete prerogative here. So
yeah.
if there's a way to make it easy, that'd be fantastic.
if you could
Yeah,
send me a link to
I
the
was just
form, I'll
thinking.
try to go in.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I was just trying to think if you had access or not. Um, but yeah, I can actually send you this page, and then you can just click through it and look through the form, and any edits you want to make, you can just note it and then send it to me.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
do that.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Yeah, so and then event participation, congressional participation, name, House, Senate, district, or affiliation, stuff like that. And then here it says, please identify all VA offices, and then followed by the federal Azabu invited, confirmed to participate in this event. I made these two required, and then I made the congressional participation optional. And then,
So
go
all
ahead.
that participation is going to go on a separate page now, right?
I can, yeah. So I could, if you want me to make this entire section
Yes.
into a separate page, I could do that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And if there's more than one, how do they separate it? Is there like, do we need to put like a semicolon or comment to say separate by semicolons? People know that it can be multiple.
That's a good question. This is just a string field, so they can just type in anything they
So I'm
want.
looking at the after
Mhm.
effects. So whatever we do here, I'm going to automate, right? So whether this is something my automation can connect directly to VEMS, which Power BI can, along with Power Automate, or if
Right.
it turns into an email, right, that's sent out to a specific distro group, that then I can turn Power Automate to pull that data and turn into the way we want it to. I want to be able to have a way to where if somebody put, the 5 different federal agencies, that I can separate them without, based on logic, based vice, a lot of options. That's why I
Yeah.
asked, right? What identifier am I going to use for this? Because if we don't tell them, they're going to do whatever they want. Whether it be a space, a comma. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the challenge because, it's depending on the user if they separate it with using a comma or a space or something like that.
Now, can you do a hover over the text boxes that provides like, right now it's using the label, right? But something that says, for multiple, use a semicolon for a comma or whatever.
Yeah, we can add that text into the label if that's what you're asking.
Just something to separate. I'm just looking at for the after the fact, right? If I'm trying to pull
Mhm.
this apart and I'm trying to capture how many other federal faucibus went over the last year, I don't need a string to saying that these 5 on this one event. I need to be able to pull each one out, and so I need a character that what I can use as a to delineate between the two.
Yeah,
The
gotcha.
spaces don't always work.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
someone could put VA
So
Altibu, right? As one
right.
of them, or SBA space Altibu, and
Mhm.
that space no longer works.
Yeah.
Just whatever you come up with is, please. I don't care how it does, but just they may not follow it, but as long as we can provide them some type of request.
Okay. Yeah, I can update the label if you want. And that would be something I would have to think about more. Maybe we can maybe we can find a better way to automate it. But there's so many different VA offices and so many different OSDBUs that, we would have to rely on them typing it in. Um,
No, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think the typing in is probably the best option. I'm just saying they may not do a comma, but if we don't tell them, they don't know what we want,
yeah,
right?
I
So
gotcha.
I would say whether it be comma, semicolon, let's give them something. They may not do it, but let's give them something.
And also, it may be NA, and we need to tell them that since it's a required field.
Okay. Yeah, we could put that in the label as well if and type in NA if non-applicable. Yeah, we could do something like that. Yeah, yeah, we could do that. I can update the label so that they can make sure to comma separate it and then also to type in NA if it's non-applicable.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on this section at least? Okay, I'm gonna fill this in real quick. So let's say it's panel member and matchmaking. As I said, these fields will appear and I will just go ahead and put in dummy data just so that we can have data when we submit it. Let's say, what day did I think I said the 11th or something like that. Let's see, panel topics and recommended, let's do 8. Okay, and then here's the section where we indicate available equipment. So if this is a multi-select field, so if they decide to select them all, they can select them all, or if they needed to just pick a few, they can pick a few here. If they select other, a other available equipment field will appear. And then the floor layout, if it's auditorium, conference room, or if it's other, then they can type in other as well. I'm assuming that as far as registration costs, we can probably hide these fields and then decide if they need to make the registration required. And then they can, if they say yes, then they can just type in the cost of the booth.
So
or
the
registration
question for
costs.
this one, to be clear, Michelle,
Mhm.
we're asking the austaboo registration costs, right? How much they want to charge
Yes,
us to be there.
Yes.
So we
yes,
probably need to
that's
be
correct.
clear because they may just think that we're saying standard registration fee for this event for speaker, maybe $300, right, or $100. So I think maybe updating the language to be clear that we're asking to identify the austaboo, VA austaboo
Yes.
fee for this.
Yep, I can do that. Yeah, we can update the language there, and that could be well, this video is recorded, so I can
Yeah.
definitely update it when I rewatch it. So
So it would say something like OSDB registration costs and costs for OSDB booth, something like that.
okay,
I'll also, when I review the language, I'll make a note of that also.
okay,
Okay. Can we
all
go
right.
back to the matchmaking section real quick?
Yep. Matchmaking.
One about the part where it asks if you're okay with our version of matchmaking. Okay, so for matchmaking via OSDB mainly provides information.
Oh, it looks like I'm
Oh
missing
yeah, it
some
was cut
text.
off.
I need to fix
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Good catch on that.
And then right under it, under the panelist, will there be questions provided in advance? If so, how soon can we see them? Is it mainly a yes or no question, or do you need a timeline? Because I like the yes or no question. The how soon is a little fuzzy.
Yeah, we need like a
I,
timeline.
I, I can separate this to another field and then hide it if it's left at no, and then show it if they select yes, and then
Okay.
we can make it
Michelle,
we
could
can
that
make it
be a
a
more precise question?
Something like can this be provided? Can questions be provided 3 weeks in advance? That sort of thing. If you want to be more
Oh, so
direct.
what about this? If we say, if it says yes, then maybe a pop-up note, questions must be provided 3 weeks in advance. And then it's not a question, it's we're telling them.
Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah, we could do that.
that's possible. Okay.
I like it. And
Because
if
you
we
don't
can't
want
do
an
a
answer.
pop-up box, you can also do a hidden field that says where they acknowledge that statement. If you can't do like a pop-up box.
Mm.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can do like a modal, or if it's popped up into the form, we can do that as well. We could just we could just add that right underneath this field so that if they select yes, then it'll pop up, and yeah, we could do that. Okay. I guess we probably want to see all of them just to kind of review what we have so far. Yep. So speaker requested, slide deck necessary.
If
This
not
looks okay.
necessary, if slide deck not necessary, can we take off the slide information?
Yeah.
Slide.
Yep, we can do that. And then duration time, if they select the date and then the time, and then so like let's say they start at 10 a.m. and they end at 11, they can do that here.
Okay.
So silly question is, if somebody's filling this out for an event 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance, is there a way that the calendars can be predated to the start of the event date? I'm only thinking that every time you click on this, we're asking a lot of questions, which is fine. But if the capability is there to where it's whatever the event start date is, that this is defaulted to that date. Kind of like, when I'm picking
I
an
see.
airline, right? It automatically says, hey, do you want to, it doesn't say today's date, it goes now. Because like, imagine all these times you click now and you had to keep advancing 3 months ahead of time or 6 months to get to the right date. It's pretty easy because you're doing it a week from now.
Yeah, we can what we can do is we can take that field and then I think we could map it into all of the date time fields that we need to pre-populate like speaker durations and stuff, panel start time. If they wanted to um, change the time, then they would just have to click on the time and stuff. That
Okay,
would
so the
be the
date,
only
the
I
date
like
would be
that.
defaulted, right? And then if they wanted to
Right.
change the date, because if it's a multi-day event, then they can, right?
right. Yeah,
Right, so
then they
that
could
goes with,
just yeah, they could just click on the calendar and select the date and stuff and time as well.
so that would tell me
Mhm.
that if it is a multi-date, do we address that in this? Right, if they're asking us to be a speaker on 2 different days at 2 different times?
That's a good question. Did we want to have um
You know, Michelle
multiple?
might be the best one. Michelle, is that a common thing where they're asking us to do multi-day?
It it's comes in not as common, not as common as one day, but it did happen in a ways where we got asked multiple times. So
So we can probably
maybe
keep
there's
it
an
this way.
option.
Maybe, I mean, I'm suggesting, just hear me out for a second, that we keep it like this way. And if they put 2 different dates here, right, or we can put an option for multi-dates, then we reach out. This is just the initial chat, right? This is the
Mhm.
initial thing, things can change. Now, we can definitely add more options, say multi-day, and have each one as a, you know, a radio button sitting there, multi-day, yes and no's, and it gives us more. Or we can leave it the same. I
Or
don't care.
at the end of the form, if there's additional requests, or maybe even in this section, another box that's
Yeah.
just like extra comments or additional
Yeah,
comments.
there is a section for additional information where they
Mhm.
could put additional comments but I guess intuitively, I guess it would make more sense if if they need to add more comments to regarding the speaking duration, maybe we could put that here. But then we, if you want to, I guess if you want to pull that information and put it into Power BI or a report or something, then we would need something more granular. Um,
I think that's pretty rare though. What I could see happening is that they may want a speaker on one day and a panelist on another day, or speaker one day
Mhm.
and matchmaking on another.
Yeah, that's more common.
Yeah.
okay.
AWAS is probably an aberration.
Yeah.
And this kind of details that if depending on what they select, if they need a speaker, a panelist, exhibit, matchmaking, etc. So should I add a
So it doesn't look
field
like anything
there?
needs to change then. If it's
Y-
very rarely and you're having a spot for additional comments, do we need to put in each section if they're asking for multi-day then? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Now, if we find it, you know, in the future, if it get modified, is that something that we can modify?
Yeah,
Like we
absolutely.
find ourselves getting comments saying, hey, that we don't want multiple
Yeah,
things.
that
Okay.
that's
Right.
something that I was actually planning. We would wait a few weeks or month or however long until we get more data into VEMS, and then we would have a follow-up meeting to kind of detail those questions and concerns that some people may have, and then if we need to update the form or add fields or something like that, then we can definitely do that after deployment. But yeah, I guess that could be like a wait and see conversation, and then any issues that we need to address, we can just start addressing those.
All right, sounds good. So I have a question, I guess, for when our on our end we get the form information, and we want to get more information that was not included in the form because it wasn't a requirement. Um, is there a way for them to go back and re-edit the form to add the information that was missing?
Well,
Or
right now the form is built so that anybody can fill out the form.
Mhm.
The only way I could think of is if they're able to log into VEMS and they
Mhm.
wanted to update their form, then we would be able to do that. But my assumption was that we wanted anybody to fill this out. So
Right.
once it's submitted, they won't be able to go back and fill it out. They would have to fill out a new form.
So yeah, that's another thing that happens often is we'll get their form and they didn't complete the form entirely, or what they didn't fill out what we needed to get. So we have to go back and ask them to refill out the form. So should we just, in that
Well, I
case,
will
should we just
say,
think about making more of these fields required fields?
yeah, we could do that. But I will also mention that these forms are filled in VEMS. So if you needed to reach out and, fill out those forms or fill out those sections or yourself, then you can do that in VEMS. You'd be able to fill out the form and save it into VEMS. And then if you needed to, or if you needed to download which I was going to show later, but if you needed to download the form from VEMS into a Word document and then send it to them to fill out the remaining fields, you can do that as well.
Okay,
But I think,
so oh, sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
Michelle, if there are required fields, let's make sure we make them required. And if they're optional, then they shouldn't have to go back and refill out the form.
Right.
Right. So if I can make all these, I mean, if they fill out a matchmaking or speaker, or if they were, then I can make these required before they submit the form, if that's what you're asking, like at least these sections here. Is that
Yeah.
what the, yeah, so if they request a speaker, but they don't fill out all the information, I can make it so that it's required if they select speaker, matchmaking, etc.
Okay, that would be perfect.
That's the plan, then you can just use the language you had earlier where you put NA, right? Something that
Right.
Anna had brought up, because there was one field that was required. If you do that, all of them, just in your comments that you're adding is with NA for not applicable. So we're clearly seeing that they didn't leave it blank, but they're saying that they're not asking for us to have a speaker.
Right.
Or none, whatever the right phrasing would be.
Okay. Yep, I can do that. Did you, oh, let me go back actually. Did you have any comments regarding exhibit type? Obviously, if they select it, they'll, like you said, we'll make these required. And if if it's not applicable, then they can type in NA on here.
Okay.
All right. I'll just close this out right now so we don't have to fill out. And then registration. Is there anything else that that pops out to you guys that we should probably cover?
Once this is filled out, how does it appear to us? Are we able to take a look at that?
Yeah, let me show you. So let me go next. Okay, and then there's a section for any additional information that Ostabu needs to be aware of. And then if they wanted to upload a file, they can upload a file here. I'm gonna upload a dummy file real quick. And then once they fill this information in, then they hit submit. And then once they
Could there be an option for a link to the agenda file instead of just uploading it, or in addition to?
Yeah, we could. I mean, do you mean for? Could you explain? Like, do you mean
Yeah,
like a
so
link for us?
yeah, so many
Go ahead.
conferences have agendas that are online. So instead of uploading a file, they just put a
Gotcha.
link
They
to
just
the
put a
agenda.
link there. Yeah, we could add another field if it's not a file. They could and we could just say if you need if it's a link, they could put the link there, and then we can, and then it'll write the link into VEMS, and then if we need to get that link, we'll be able to go into VEMS and see the link and click on it and such.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, that will work.
Yeah, because the if they print it out 6 months ahead of time, the agenda would change. But if a lot of them, like Anna said, have that link that they keep up to date, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And many people don't have like an agenda external agenda that's a separate file is just built into the site.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me see something. There it is. Okay. So once they submit the form, I kind of added this. I wasn't sure if this is how you guys wanted it, but please let me know if this is something. Are you able to see the email that I just pulled in front of the screen?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's two links there. One that goes to SharePoint and then one that goes to VEMS. In SharePoint, right now I have a flow that will create the SharePoint item. I'm using a testing uh, list. So once they submit it, all these fields are populated from VEMS into SharePoint, event role, comments, address, information. I didn't put anything there, so it's
Wow.
blank. And then if they upload a file, it'll be under attachments here, audience info and stuff. The only things that I left out was directorate, the proposed participant, and I think the comments section. Yeah, so those three I left out because I wasn't really sure how to map them. But it seemed like also we needed email addresses, and I didn't think that the user would be putting in on the email addresses or the email address for that was participate. But we could add a field and map it to this field if we want. And then obviously the directorate, there's a bunch here. I didn't know if we wanted to add a field so that they can select one of these and then, yeah,
Yeah,
multiple.
actually, we do need to be able to choose multiple directorates for when there are multiple people, as
Yeah.
well as multiple participants.
But
Okay.
that's for us to select, not for the
Right.
the externals. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So then yeah, if we want you guys to select it, then I can just leave these blank and then you guys can select it once you receive the test about this list item from the email. And then and then if you need to add comments, you can put that here.
Right, so we do need another field for approval, right? It starts off with pending approval as initial, right? And then
Yes.
final approval, because think about, so this is beautiful because our workflow will be, they'll come into here.
Mhm.
Let's say we have Anna and we have Jules and we have shared services, Antoine Broughton. Those are the three directorates, just to clear. And then the fourth one's not director, but it's the exec office, right? So they'll put the proposed participants. Maybe it's initially Ms. Ridley, and then she says, no, I want my directors to go. Okay.
Mhm.
And once it gets approved, I will create an automation that sends this data over to SOC, right?
Mhm.
Will then manage this. If it's Ms. Ridley and Ms. Osborne at the exec, we're going to handle slightly different, but all of the outreach events, once it gets approved, right on here, will go to SOC, right? Because they control the outreach event. They make sure that the tablecloths are there, that the event, all that stuff. And so that approval status, which you're showing me, you already have it on there. Sorry, I missed it. But so the director, I don't know if it's that important right now because once it gets to SOC, they're gonna have control over it. But they'll see the names, the event, and Anna would have been in the meetings where this gets approved, so she'll know who gets to go as well for the staff.
Mhm.
So while we can't add the directorates, I don't think it's a showstopper because the elite team stops action after it gets approved and if it goes to SOC, and then SOC manages.
Okay, gotcha.
So
So go
can
ahead.
we add, can we use this for the full life cycle? For example, once it's determined that Joe and I are going, can we add like a column or a place for the people picker for the participating OSDB participants or something like that?
On the form?
Uh, on this, not the
Oh,
external
in
facing.
SharePoint. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can add that, I think.
Well, isn't it the proposed participants? Isn't that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Or
it is.
are you saying we
Well-
want another one that says final participants?
Well, so
Mhm.
either way, either we change the proposed participants and we force it. So let's say the external chamber said that Miss Ridley should go. Miss Ridley said, no, Joe and Anna go. Do we just delete Miss Ridley and add Joe and Anna, or do we have another field that says final participants or approved participants?
So
I
we
kinda
want to
like the-
capture,
I
yeah,
kind of
so
like
that
the
we,
final one, the one you said we have another one.
yeah, that way we
Okay.
capture, yeah, that way we capture the changes in
Okay.
in the list item, right?
Yeah.
That's my understanding. Okay.
And so
Okay.
Anna, when we build the sock, the new sock one, right? We can
Mhm.
take and leave whatever from his list that he created, right? And then add, right? So once we get to the sock, we'll be able to take all of this or, a handful and then still have all the sock elements that you need to track on your sock
Okay.
side. Right. So we'll be able to pick and choose what details once it gets approved that you need to know for your team. It could be all of it, or it could be like, no, I don't need X.
Okay. All right.
So just confirming, this is gonna have everything that was populated in the form, or just the main elements that are here,
Just the main elements here.
and then it'll just link to the form.
Yeah, and then the email will link to the actual form here. So when you click on it, it'll open up the record that was submitted by the user, and then you can look at all the information that you need here.
Okay.
Yeah, for the final, either we're gonna look to with your help, Mike, do what you did for the SharePoint for the final site, but for all of the data.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so you want me to add all of the data here into?
Yeah, because that's how we track it now. I get it, it's gonna be in VEMS, but it's a little bit more user friendly on our end when it's in SharePoint, because then we can do a lot more with SharePoint for our own personal automations and efforts.
Okay,
Right, the database can still be with VEMS, right? But what you did here and how you made it work is perfect. It prevents me
okay,
from having to time into VEMS and do the same thing you've already done.
okay, yeah.
Now,
So
the bad with SharePoint is we'll probably will never hit the 5,000 with this event, but there's a list limit where it starts having breakdown issues for the VA after 5,000, right?
is there a column limit? Do you know?
Not a column limit, because man, I got one with AST 2268 where I got like 60 columns. Right,
Okay,
it's gross.
so yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I was just
Yeah.
wondering.
No, they have a max lookups, right? Where you can only have like 10 per view, then it breaks down on you. It won't even let you see the view.
Right.
But like say 4,999 event later, right? It'll still show, but it starts to break down at 5,000. Which I don't think we're gonna have to worry about for this. I don't know why I brought it up now that I say out loud. I brought it up because we do the same thing with views, right? And we ran out of space with the views, so we turned our views list, right, in SharePoint
Mhm.
into a fiscal year views list. So that way, every fiscal year, I repoint all of the automation to a new list.
Gotcha. Okay. So
I don't
that
think we'll
means
have
we
just
would
gonna
have
say the
to
same thing.
update VEMS as well. Whenever you update the list, we would have to update it on our end as well.
Right. So I mean, but we'll see at 5,000. I don't think we're gonna hit that.
Okay.
I think last year we did like 150 events, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, we should be fine for a while, and then if we need to, I mean, it would be, yeah, I don't think it would take a long time for us to hit 5,000.
I don't know that Anna's gonna remain communicator. Maybe she can get us out there so much that we'll be having nothing but events.
365 a year.
Yeah, her
For
show to travel.
Yeah.
Um, so while we're on this page, Michelle, are there any other essential data points here for decision
Yeah.
making that are
So,
not on this list?
So Joe mentioned that we should probably add all of these fields into this list. So if it's on the form, it'll be on this SharePoint list field. So
Okay.
yeah, so you don't, I mean, if there's any data missing, it's going to be there, because unless we have to add it onto the form. But like all of these fields here, whether it's blank or if it's filled in, will be on this SharePoint item here.
Okay.
so
Just
my
to-
only okay,
Go ahead.
my only thing was that after the event, we usually put in post-event information, which is like the number of attendees the final number of attendees that actually participated. Can we add an actual attendee
So
number
Michelle,
stat
that's different.
here?
So this is
Okay.
the pre, right? This is
Mhm.
pre-decisional making. So this is its own animal. And so once it gets to SOC, they manage the post. Okay. If
Okay.
it's an ED-DED event, elite is still managed, and all this data, instead of being sent to SOC, will be sent to another list that we'll manage that will have post-event
Okay.
data, right? And it links up
Yeah.
based on the ID number that this is going to be. So it'll still link up together. So as we
Okay.
have it all on there.
But
Right.
that's so just to confirm, I think Michelle, I really like that suggestion. So the post-event information and the final event information will be linked to this data set, so we don't have to repopulate it in another list manually, right?
So let's say this one here gets approved, like you said, it was Joe and Anna. It
Yep.
goes over to SOC, right? Because it's me and
Okay.
you.
Yep.
SOC managed this event. We get the data. It gets updated on that SOC list, which
Okay.
then gets fed into the OSDBU data matrix for events and attendees. The
Okay.
DED and ED are different. They get managed by the elite team, right? They're responsible for that. So they will have a very similar one for SOC. Now, the problem with that one is we typically struggle to get the post-event data. They need these type of event. We'll still have a place for us to get it, but the requirement won't be out of SOC. Now, Anna, we can definitely talk to saying later if like, hey, I want that too. We can easily shift it and still have the elite team's hands, right? So that way everything's in one spot. But that's us. That's internally controlled. Mike
Okay.
doesn't have to worry about this.
Got
What
it.
Mike's doing is beautiful.
I appreciate it, Joe.
Hey, Jay.
Is there anything else that we wanted to hear before I move on to the final thing?
I could comment that I know you look like you did a lot of work with this one. When you do the SharePoint list, like the final one, when we come up with the right place for it, which it'll be I'll have to give you access. It's the executive office SharePoint site. You probably can just use text box, right?
Okay.
Because it's going to be a pull and a paste basically, right? So you
Right.
wouldn't have to worry about, formatting the SharePoint list to look very pretty because we're going to do something with it. I'm going to test automation and Power BI and turn it into graphics and charts and all that jazz.
Right.
So
Okay.
for this
Yep.
comments section here, is that going to be a box that we can fill out or okay? And wouldn't it be better to put it at the end of this list order?
Yep.
Um,
Well, once we add all of the fields, then we can
Mhm.
discuss. I mean, I guess we could discuss what the order of the fields that you want on here once it populates into SharePoint.
Okay.
But I will note that you want the comments on the bottom so that, after reviewing the information, if you need to add comments, then you can put it there.
Just think about it, Michelle. You're going to have like 100 fields. So
Yeah, I'm thinking
But
about that too.
we can
Yeah.
change like you just said, we can change the order in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Okay.
And then on the bottom has I don't know if I said this, I probably did, but the bottom has the attachments. And then if we need the URL, once I create that field, it'll be populated here as well. So that if you needed to click on the URL to view the document, then you can do that as well.
Okay.
So. Okay, anything else?
Good.
That's all for now.
All right. And then, like I said, if you needed to, for whatever reason, send information to someone externally or someone internally, you could download, and they don't have access to VEMS, you could download the outreach form. I created a template so that it takes all those fields and it populates it onto this Word document. And here is the Word document, and here are all the fields that I filled in if they're missing information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if there's any information that is missing, you could obviously, like you said, if you need to reach back out, you could download this and say, hey, can you fill out the topic and stuff like that. So
Okay, perfect.
I had to move things around because some of them I had to, for example, the multi-select, there wasn't really a way that I know of that allows me to select the multi-select field. So instead I just semicolon separated the selections that they selected.
Okay.
But other than that, everything else should be pretty straightforward. Their text, panel time and stuff like that. But yeah, if you needed to download this and then send it to somebody, the option is there as well. I know we didn't
Perfect.
discuss it, but I figured it would be something useful for you
Yeah,
guys.
and that's the same if we wanted to print it out. Like if somebody asked
exactly.
us to print it out. Okay.
Exactly. But yeah, so I guess let me go back actually. Do you guys have any questions or comments about the form? Is there anything that we should add? Probably not, because it's basically replicating what the form that they're filling out. So I mean, if there's any additional fields that we talked about, I'll update that form as well, so that we're not missing any data. If we need to send it, I can't find it. Hold on a second. Here it is. But yeah, any questions or concerns? And if I need Anna, if I need to send this over to you as well, I can do that as well. If you want to review it.
Would this be? No, I'd rather review the form than the Word document, because this is
Okay.
not going to be, my hope is that this is not going to be used much at all.
Right. Yeah, but if the option is there, if they need
Yeah.
to send it, but send it to somebody that doesn't have access to VEMS or something. Obviously, if they have SharePoint, then they'll be able to access the data through SharePoint. But I guess this was more of a catch-all kind of situation, that if they need the data, it's there.
Yep.
And this is for
So this,
internal people.
yes, or whoever that needs the data. That was my assumption, is that if someone needed access to this and they don't have SharePoint or VEMS, which probably never happens, then this option is there. So that if they needed to print it out or something, if they, like Michelle said, if they needed to download it and print it out or something like that, they can do that. But like I said, as long as they have access to VEMS or SharePoint, they'll be able to see the data regardless. And they might not, we might not ever need this, but it's there if it's needed.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, we usually print out the event forms for travel books. So, of course, once we automate those and go to the electronic versions of travel books, then we won't
Yeah,
need these. But
then we'll have a conversation there.
yeah.
Great.
Oh, okay.
This is
All right.
exciting.
Thank you, Michael.
I thank you for your comments. You guys gave me a lot to work on, so I'm excited to get the final product going. But as far as an ETA, I think I'm gonna need at least a week or two, probably 2 weeks tops. Because obviously the meat and potatoes of the form is already built out. We just got to make those adjustments for you guys. So once I do that, I can send you guys the link to the form, and if you wanted to test it out, I could write some scripts, or just to make sure everything is working properly before we move it into production.
Okay. And when you send me the link, I do have some time actually this afternoon to run through it and give you the text edits rather.
Yep, I will send you the link right after this meeting. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and stop sharing my screen.